Welcome to the Talking Transformation podcast. I'm your podcast host, Peter Ahmad, recording from Cape Town, South Africa, since June 2019. The Talking Transformation podcast provides an open and accessible platform for built environment professionals and interest groups to share their reflections and aspirations relating to the transformation of places and spaces in South Africa. It's intended to be a celebration of the individuals and community groups who are supporting formal and informal processes that are addressing the challenges of South Africa's history and shaping the future of our neighbourhoods and cities. The small-scale rental sector continues to gain momentum and prominence in discussions about city building and the required funding and infrastructure requirements to support this emerging property market. It's also become a recurring theme here on the Talking Transformation podcast, and it was an opportune meeting with Nomfundo Molemohi and members of the Township Developers Forum, the recent Western Cape Property Developers Forum conference, where we had the opportunity to again reflect on the size and the scale of this increasingly lucrative market. Within the city of Cape Town, where much of this development is taking place, in townships around the metropolitan area, an announcement of an additional 20 million rands to support development charges to subsidise qualifying micro-developers again shows the commitment and the changing mindset within the municipal space. Subsidies have been made available to stimulate this development of affordable housing in 194 targeted lower income areas across the city. The subsidy will certainly make it much easier for micro developers to invest in the small scale rental unit market, enabling more accommodation within the City of Cape Town space. uMaStandi has been working in this space since 2018, continued to render financial services for emerging developers providing affordable rental accommodation. It's an offshoot of the considerable clout of the Trust for Urban Housing Finance, or TUFT, and it's targeted finance in the townships to unlock the potential of this emerging property market and addressing the low density design of those original government-sponsored housing initiatives. If you look at the uMaStandi brochure, it describes itself as a property financing company providing commercial, mortgage finance, training, mentorship and guidance to property entrepreneurs in the townships. It also suggests that it's looking at the potential of townships that has been, in their words, ignored for too long, believing it's time for the private sector to start recognizing that these economies are worth investing in. And last but certainly not least, within that promotional material, it talks about this kind of development having the opportunity to stimulate township economies, create places of employment, and offer people access to economic opportunities. So we have covered this subject of small scale or micro developments on the Talking Transformation podcast on a number of occasions. And there's a back catalogue of episodes that you're welcome to dive into around densification of cities, the work and efforts of the Development Action Group via their Contractors and Developers Academy. But this was an opportunity to go into the financial space. We did look a couple of years ago with Bitprop, who were also interviewed, when I was really trying to understand what that market could mean for city planning and infrastructure policy at the City of Cape Town. This is really a great opportunity to revisit the subject and update the thinking and opportunities available. And what does it mean for the transformation of our spaces, our communities, and the economy of South Africa? To help me understand this, I'm joined by uMaStandi's Portfolio Manager Nomfundo Molemohi, responsible for the Western and Eastern Cape portfolio for uMaStandi, and we're joined by her client Lizwi Ntengeshe. In the episode, we have the opportunity to deep dive the approach and impact of this emerging market, the decisions that go into greenlighting a project, both from the client and the financier side, and the implications and opportunities afforded to the sector. We hope you'll enjoy this particular insight, and I'm very grateful to both Lizwi and Nomfundo for their time and reflections, and I think you'll find it's a really interesting and deep dive conversation into some of those mechanics. Enjoy the episode as always. It's just gone 10:30, Wednesday, the 12th of June 2024, and we're here in Woodstock at the offices of TUFT and uMaStandi. Absolutely delighted to be joined by Nomfundo and Lizwi, who are going to take us through the story of uMaStandi and how it started to benefit the various stakeholders and clients that they serve. So Nomfundo, please, as hosting us today, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you. What a beautiful view we have here of the sea and the whole hub here at Woodstock. What a pleasure it is to be here.
Thank you so much for inviting us to be part of this podcast. We're so looking forward to sharing our time with you and our experience and the journey that we've been through as uMaStandi, as well as the client Lizwi will take us through his journey with us. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lizwi, welcome, sir. Lovely to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Peter. Yes, I will be more talking about my experience as a client of uMaStandi.
Let's start from the beginning, and perhaps you'd like to give a bit of background to yourself, Nomfundo. You and I have known each other for about 18 months or so. We've been gravitating around each other, the different workspaces, and we've been talking about doing this podcast for a long time, and here we are. But to orientate us, tell us a bit about your story and what brings you here.
Currently, I'm the portfolio manager for uMaStandi, as indicated. I'm a property commercial specialist with 6 years experience in the real estate as well as the investment sector. So I bring a lot of experience from terms of strategies and managing portfolios within the residential space, and also analyzing investment opportunities for our clients and ensuring that the delivery on their return on the investment it's high or it's profitable. At the end of the day, people become entrepreneurs so that they can make profit for themselves and build wealth or legacy for their families. So my job is to ensure that I assist those clients in that journey.
What exactly is uMaStandi? How would you describe the services that you're offering here? And how does it differ, for example, from Standard Bank, ABSA, Nedbank, and so forth?
uMaStandi is a commercial property financer who provides loans to property entrepreneurs in the township. So where, for me, segmentation becomes key, as we know that most banks don't come into the space. We know about 43% of the people that have been interviewed indicated that they struggle to get finance in the township. So uMaStandi saw an opportunity, and we learned from TAF and uMaStandi is the same company. What is different is that uMaStandi focuses in the townships, whereas TAF focuses in the inner city. The business has been running for the past 21 years, where they started in Johannesburg, inner city CBD. And within that, the business grew, and they saw an opportunity that there's a market that we have left out in the township, where in the township there's always been people that are entrepreneurs. They might have not been formal, but they knew that I've got a F here on my house, and I've got a space that I can use to build rooms, and then I can hire those rooms out and get a supplementary income. So the stories that are in the townships are quite different, where people will take years to build these rooms, where also compliance sometimes was not in place. And we realized that how do we assist these entrepreneurs to run successful businesses, and with the skills that we give them, that they not only focus in the township, but they can be able to grow and come and operate in the inner city in various provinces that we operate at.
At what stage did TUF, this Trust for Urban Housing Finance, split from the inner city regeneration focused into the township market? When did that era occur of saying we actually need to be thinking about our financing beyond the inner cities?
It happened in 2015, where for 2015 to 2018, uMaStandi was a pilot. It started in Soweto, Johannesburg. And then in Cape Town, we opened office in 2018 for uMaStandi. So that's when I joined. And I've been with uMaStandi since 2018.
What was it that within that township dynamic or property market that was changing, that was saying there is an inherent market here, there is an opportunity, and the work that the TUF had been doing could now expand? Was there a particular change in the building typologies? What was the sense of going on there?
It was the demand from the client. Operating in Soweto, I've built 12 rooms and I want to grow. So can you finance me? That's how the demand, and also the research that has been done by various professionals within the township market to understand the need that is there. And then uMaStandi came and offered that package. We finance differently, where we I always say that we are so hands-on as a financer because we understand the market, our township market, and we understand our clients. We back individuals where we can see an opportunity, and once we finance that individual, we make sure that the capacity for them to do this business is there for our purpose, which is rental units, ensuring that the income that it's going to be collected will be enough to cover our loan and also pay for the operational cost, and also the client to have some money left as a profit. Part of that can be used to ensure that the property is well managed and also start saving for the next project equity.
Part of this philosophy is that it's not necessarily a once-off investment. The idea is to try and get recurring investments and or projects from your clients that can build essentially a property portfolio within that township market.
Correct. We want to grow with our clients. So where they not only develop one portfolio, we also offer a property training course where they get to be guided and get to know the terms and the knowledge around finance, construction, property management. So which is run every year in association with UCT. And also, I guess our model is always different, is that each client is handled differently. We listen and we get involved. We always say that developers, they are ready to be entrepreneurs. But what do you need to start any business? You must have capital, which we always say that they must have a minimum 20% equity that they are willing to invest. So this is their hard-earned money. And then uMaStandi, we will finance up to 80% of the loan. So we also assess, it can vary from each client. So each client's dynamics are always different. And we zoom into each client and ensure that we assist them. And if the project is not viable, we don't finance because we need to tick numbers. We need to ensure that all our financial hurdles are being met, and then we can be able then to assist the developer. And we guide them, we coach them, and we also appoint a mentor that anytime they need assistance, if their portfolio manager is not available, they can talk to someone and guide them within this journey of being entrepreneurs in the township.
Fantastic. There's so much we can unpack on that. The mentorship program, the challenges or the financial hurdles that you've mentioned. But let's come to one of your clients. And again, Lizwi, thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. And perhaps you want to take us right back to the first engagement with uMaStandi. What brought you here? And had you been elsewhere before you arrived at their door to help with the financing of your project?
Thank you, Peter. By profession, I'm a detective. My uMaStandi became known to me around 2018. And after I've known that uMaStandi exists, and then I've met Sis Nomfundo at that time, and then I wasn't ready to buy or to be a part of the property entrepreneurship. And then I took my time to do some research and gather some knowledge and prepared my mind because I'm a police officer. I wasn't familiar with this kind of industry of property, to be honest. When I was ready, I think it was 2022, I came to uMaStandi, and then the requirements were put to me. This is what is needed. The equity that Sis Nomfundo mentioned. And then also the feasibility, where you're buying this property, and then simple like what will be the rental income, will it be able to cover the bond and all those things. I went back to do my research again, and then yes, I was being also guided by uMaStandi. I think that's where uMaStandi comes in and differ with the banks. I was being assisted throughout in planning and also buying the property, which I bought in Little Park. 7 units with the main house has 3 bedrooms.
So just to understand that, Lizwi,
yes.
When you purchased that house in Elita Park, the original structure was?
The house had planned. I think the previous owner had plans of doing the business, but it was not up to standard. That's why uMaStandi, when they visited the site, they said we need to do 1, 2, three things to make the property fit uMaStandi's standard.
Understood.
Yes.
But there was a house there prior to that.
Yes.
There were plans also, but
Yes.
those plans required some preparation, some fine-tuning. And so from the original, what was it, a single room house or was it multiple rooms?
The house was a 3-bedroom house already.
Right.
And then there were 7 units. But
you were going to develop?
That were there already.
Okay.
Right. But the units were not up to standard. That's why we had to do a lot of refurbishment. The ceiling, the bathrooms, the kitchen sector, quite a lot of things, including the floors and the doors, just to make it look good and also be in a better standard for the tenants. I think uMaStandi has done in some research in the township what is required, and also to make the bachelors in the township look better than they were. But remember, people in the township usually share one toilet and then there's no bathroom in their rooms, you understand? So this was new, and then this was new, and then it was brought by uMaStandi's ideas. So the renovations were to meet uMaStandi, and surely the compliance in terms of planning is also to meet the city. Yeah.
I'm going to bring you in here, Nomfundo. Again, your recollection of the first meeting with Lizwi, and from seeing the property in its initial state, how do you vision that this can be a winner? As in, this is bankable, this is going to be profitable, not only for your client, but ultimately it's going to meet those minimum expectations through certain checks and balances. We don't want to get into the rands and cents of it, but perhaps just a reminder, a refresher from your side of what that looked like back in the day.
When Lizwi came to us, he has never purchased a property. He prided himself as a Xhosa man who has now purchased this property that is not only a property, but is also getting income from it. So we had to assist from the beginning, like with the OTP, offer to purchase, where we looked at the property, we identified the work that needed to be done to make it ready for him to get these rentals that he said he was going to get in the township. He also had to get the builder who came and assess all the units to ensure that the cost to refurbish is going to be enough. We have to take him through that stage and look at, because we saw there was some work that needed to be done, like ceiling touch-ups, coat of painting to be done. Once we've got that, we have to now look at the cost for the property to say that the overall cost to purchase and the income that is going to be getting, will it be enough to pay the bond? So where we had to determine with the client Lizwi to ensure that these rentals that he says he's going to get, are they achievable? And what is the operational cost? We always estimate up to 30%. And then once our hurdles, we look at the debt cover ratio, which is at 1.4%. So with every 100 rand, there's 40 rand profit. So once it meets those, we ensure that then we can be able to move on to finance the project. But we guide them through with all the legal jargon that is now coming through as the first-time purchaser, and assisting them to understand the cost associated with buying, like who's paying the transfer fees, who's paying the bond fees, because that's knowledge that not everyone has got. And also the deposits, where do you pay your deposits? Because there are people that will pay deposit directly to the sellers, and we only find that they're being scammed at the end of the day. We work with them in the journey from the beginning, and we are hands-on. We communicate daily until the project gets to be registered. And once it gets to be registered, we give him a grace period, because he indicated that he needs some time to refurbish the house and the unit so that they are ready to let out. We gave him 3 months grace period to do all those things. And then in the month 4, we've already communicated that that's when we will start collecting the rental. And within that period, 3 months, he completed all the work. And in month 4, he started repaying uMaStandi, and he's been a good client. And we pride ourselves when we look back of where we started and where he is. He is one of those clients that was hungry for information. Every opportunity, the course that we're offering, he's there, he's on time. And also, as uMaStandi, we look at the character of the person, like who's this person who's coming to us requiring funding from us. What is your character, which is very key. You're going to find times that you meet people who say they need money and they are not honest individuals. And we are an organization that really looks at each person's character, and we want to deal with real people with integrity. And those are the things that we look at when we've got an appointment at 10 o'clock. Is he really going to pitch at 10 o'clock, or is going to forget about the meeting or gets here at 11 o'clock? If I request information, are you able to give me that information? Are you able to communicate? And also we look at the skills that they're bringing, like transferable skills from their previous work or their current work that they can use as they become entrepreneurs. So we look at all those things before we can fund them.
It would have been a great help, I have no doubt, in the conversations with you back in the day, Lizwi. You're dealing in, you're a detective by trade, you're the forensic eye. So that whole question of attention to detail and understanding and that thirst for knowledge that Nomfundo is talking about, it gave you the confidence that these conversations would have built your confidence to say, this is a significant undertaking, but based on the knowledge I have and the risk appetite that I have, this is a go now. We're going to green light this project.
Correct. The knowledge, I've been a detective for more than 13 years now. We just a simple one from what she's saying of the exposure anyway in my career. We've dealt with a few complaints of tenants and landlords in the area of Brooklyn, Maitland. You can say it's a property area where landlords, there's so much fight between landlords and tenants. So from there, I started also developing interest in trying to resolve the issues before the guys are taken to housing tribunal and all those institutions. So yes, indeed, my knowledge of being a detective has helped me a lot, being professional, like Nomfundo mentioned, and also being able to screen people, because we have tenants that we don't know who they are, and then with so much scams that are happening, so you won't know who's in your property. So it is helping me a lot to pick up the negative or the good or the bad tenants in between. Yeah.
Who are your tenants who occupy your units, and has that changed over the last couple of years?
The target market was more of looking maybe young professionals, and then people that are usually working, and then decent people. We all want decent tenants that will be able to pay the rent, you understand? So the target market was young professionals. So my property, to be specific, I have 3 policemen, 2 Navy guys, and then the students, because I'm closer to False Bay College. 2 of the rooms are being used by the students.
How did you market? I think you're fully let presently. When there's a vacancy, how do you market? Is it word of mouth or using Facebook? What's the approach that you use?
No, there is platforms that many people always search from would be your Gumtree and then your Facebook market. There's a platform that is already there that also is about township rentals, where most tenants or potential tenants or most tenants that are looking for places around Mandalay, Lita Park, in anywhere in Cape Town. I think there are about 4 to 5 groups that were formed by other people. So I also go in those groups in terms of marketing, and also Property 24, because I know who my target market is. So I usually use Facebook and Gumtree, which is Gumtree allows other people from other provinces, not being limited to Cape Town. People from other provinces are able to see your property that is on the market for rental.
I'm guessing that's really important, particularly with a lot of people coming, job seekers. You've mentioned students coming from outside of the province. And so it's really important to be able to reach far. That if you're coming from Eastern Cape, Gauteng, wherever it might be, that there's a landing space.
Correct. Like one student is from Durban, and the other guy is from Pretoria. I got those through Come3. Yes.
I don't want to go into the specifics, but your rentals per unit per month for a room and what that includes and what that excludes.
We're looking around per room 2.8. And then, it includes your water.
Each unit has its own electricity box?
Correct.
Does each unit have its own ensuite bathroom?
Correct. Yes.
It's all bachelors and with ensuite and a mini kitchen. So what does that mean? There's a shower, there's a toilet, and then a cupboard space, and a place for the bed, and also a mini kitchenette for cooking and preparing their meals.
How do you deal with your tenants when they themselves have challenges, financial challenges? And I think, in students and so forth, beginning of term, there's books to buy, there's a whole range of circumstances. Your bottom line is you need to cover the costs and repay uMaStandi. But how have you gone about assisting the tenants when there are struggles? And at what stage do you have to say, look, this is unfortunately not for you, that circumstances are broken down and there's a need for a change? Have you found ways to assist or mitigate those circumstances?
Yes, this is a very complex one, and then everybody differs in approach. Yes, we have a lease agreement whatsoever, but not always you stand by the lease agreement. For example, I'll say that if you do not pay rent and then you have violated the lease and then you must vacate the room. But not always is the case. You need to see the person, assess the situation of the tenant.
Sure.
And then understand the tenant, because some are being honest about their problems, but some are chance takers. So you need to not be harsh, I'll say so, because I've seen with my experience of some landlords are very harsh, that you haven't paid, they come and switch off the lights, and eviction. But we know the eviction will be very complicated sometimes if you are to go to the courts and so on. So that's why it's very important to go and speak to the tenant.
So there's a personal relationship that's as important as anything. Understanding who your people are, what the limit of your
understanding.
Understanding. I like that. The understanding is, but ultimately, I say you have a bottom line that you need to cover.
Yes, you are right, because I'm not going to pay with the stories, honestly. The bond has to be paid, uMaStandi wants to be paid. So if you have a problem, I ask from you, what is it that I can assist with? Do you need a gap month maybe? Then if that's the case, and then if you don't pay the next month, this is what you do. So it has to be a relationship and a very well communicated one. And that's when even your tenant, there's no fight when they have to go.
I also want to add that Lizwi's tenants, they've got a Wi-Fi that they all contribute towards that Wi-Fi. So that makes life easier. And also they've got a parking space and it's gated. So they're providing security. And also with the 3 cops in the building that are the tenants, so it's not even paying for it. It's got a free security there, so which is a bonus for him.
Hardwired inbuilt security into it. I like that.
We are 4 cops,
yeah.
And the Navy guys, so we are actually 5. So you can see that the security is tight.
This is an important distinction, and we were actually in a meeting yesterday, Nomfundo and I, and we were talking about typologies and definitions in relation to this market. Are you staying on the property or not staying on the property? This whole idea of the difference, and maybe we can come back to you just now, Nomfundo, in terms of how you deal with occupying landlords versus non. Are you staying on the property?
Yes, because I was in Nomfundo mentioned that managing my own property by myself, so I decided to be closer. Then I decided to go and occupy the main house. So I'm staying in the property in the house.
On the main property.
On the main house,
understood.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Understood.
It's a residential landlord who's there hands-on and can attend to clients' challenges immediately.
And your experience within uMaStandi of other typologies and circumstances that you'll find either living on property, off property, what have you typically found works best, or is it that no one size fits all?
There's no one size fits all. Each situation is different. there are clients that were macro developers who've got units up to 23, 26, where they saw an opportunity and they built more units, but they had to go through the rezoning, of course. In their cases, they will appoint a property manager who's hands-on, able to be available 24 hours. But they still also hands-on as the developers, where they got a view of what's happening in the complex in terms of ensuring that the utilities are paid monthly, the property is clean, where they do their normal checks, and also with the finances, ensuring that deposits are being paid and are being kept in an investment account, that when the tenants leave, they are able to pay them back and with interest as stipulated by the law. So those are the things that the tenants do. So it varies. Both of them, they work, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
To add from what Mrs. Nomfundo is saying, there's a property that I manage, which has 26 units. I think I'm about maybe 7 kilometers away from the property. From what she's saying, that the landlord is not staying there, but I'm a property manager, and I'm also not staying on that property. With that, surely the management scale will differ. How do you manage a property
remotely?
Yes, correct. Groups like a WhatsApp group for the property also assist very well, you understand? So they are being alerted of anything, and also the cameras that are in that property. So I can be able to access the camera and see who's parked outside, the gate is open, what's happening. And then whenever there's an issue, I quickly respond to that.
So it's interesting, the tech, even if it's as basic as a WhatsApp group or, as you say, CCTV cameras that have got remote ability to check on your phone, or that'll play a big part in that ability to manage effectively the properties.
Plays a very important part, especially like you saying the CCTV cameras, because at any time I'm able to view the cameras because I have the app installed on my cell phone. Then I'm able even to access the cameras and see what is happening. Okay, everything is still okay, it looks okay. And then whenever I'm able or free, and then I quickly go and check if everything's still okay.
And of course you can only do that if you've got Wi-Fi.
Yes,
which is the beauty of the Wi-Fi, right?
There has to be Wi-Fi, correct. Wi-Fi, we cannot run away from it these days.
I want to also ask Lizwi, how do you deal with tenants who are noisy? Because you will find in most cases that there are tenants who enjoy their music and they will come back and want to have party, and that end up disturbing the other tenants within the complex. How do you deal with those clients?
With my experience with the 26 units property, there were two guys that were a problem, and they would party and bring whoever in the property, and then there would be a lot of noise, and then they would party until 3 o'clock in the morning. And then when you check your WhatsApp, there's so many complaints from different tenants. It simply goes back to what I said, that you need to develop a relationship to every tenant. So I do approach those troublesome tenants, and then I told them strictly, this is what's going to happen if you continue with that. I did not even penalize them and say, it's not about money. I say that I'm charging 1,000 for violating this now, because you will pay that and then you will still continue doing the same thing. And then I say, it's a penalty of 2,000. You pay the 2,000 and you continue doing the same thing. So the best way is to work on evicting that tenant.
Goes right back to the point, know your tenant, understand their needs. There's a grace period by the sounds of it, and a conversation that has to be had. But ultimately, I mean, that communal living, it's a challenge. It's always going to be a challenge, I guess, where you've got diverse people, diverse backgrounds, diverse age groups, and to marry that in one built structure, that's quite a challenge. Nomfundo, again, these are things that I have no doubt when you engage with new clients. How much of these conversations do you go in that, yes, there's the bricks, the mortar, and the rands and cents, but these details of, you're going to have to be a people's person. You're going to have to be able to understand and read a situation well between a nonsense story versus a genuine circumstance. How do you go about inculcating that within your clients?
What we do when we appraise that deal before it gets to be approved, we get to have a full understanding of what is the property management strategy for each building. When I present Lizwi taking their loan to Menko for approval, credit committee, I need to tell the credit committee that this is how Lizwi is going to manage the property. These are the systems that he's going to use to collect rent, to send invoices to the clients. And sometimes as clients are not available or they don't want to be part of property management, they are allowed to appoint a property manager. And we ensure that that amount is also looked at in our feasibility, because our feasibility that we give clients is not just to build. We always ask them, for this business, how much is going to cost you to build? If it's a construction or sometimes it's refurbishment. So it's very important to have a clear full cost of your building and the legal fees and the professionals that have to be paid. Let's say it's a greenfield development where it's a plot. You need to ensure that you appoint a town planner if rezoning is required, an architect. You're going to need a structural engineer. The city also now wants a fire engineer to submit reports. So those are the professionals that requires money. And we always ensure that not only the cost to build, but cost to pay the professionals and also the legal fees. So we look at the overall cost of how much it's required. That's how we look at our feasibilities for each client to ensure that we've got money. We then compare that money to build and complete. And it's important that we also give our clients grace period during construction, where they will tell us that if they're building 14 units, they might tell us that their builder indicated that they need 6 months and then 2 months to fully let. So where we give full 8 months grace period, that means what they have to worry about during that 8 months is to ensure that they complete their structure that they promised to develop, that it's solid and it's within time and it's also within budget. That's why ensuring that your costs are calculated correct. We even now ask that the clients get a QS to ensure that they've got a full cost of their project, so that we don't have challenges halfway through the building that the money is finished. So it's very important that the costing exercise is done correctly and the period to build is estimated correctly, and also building a solid structure, which we pride ourselves with. That if it's a double story, we immediately insist that there should be a structural engineer on the project. And also when the project is big, we will then assess the capability of the client. If the skills are not there, we will then insist that they appoint a project manager or principal agent who will be able to ensure that the project is completed on time and is a solid structure and it's within the budget, which is quite important.
As you're talking, I can just see this financial model appearing in front of my eyes, you know. You've talked at least about the principal agent, a QS, a quantity surveyor, structural engineer. That's over and above if you need to rezone, for example, a property, the architect's drawings. This list becomes frightening, particularly for a first-timer. And again, how do you go about onboarding your clients, particularly the first-timer who will not be aware that these are the costs? Another thing that comes out of this part of the conversation was there's a big difference in if you're actually occupying as the landlord the property because of the savings, in lieu of a property manager who you'd have to factor in. I don't know what the percentage of that per month would be. I'm guessing it's somewhere between 7 and 10%.
Correct.
So immediately that's eating into the operational side of the rentals versus those upfront costs. How much time, Nomfundo, do you spend and how important is that?
This business is not an easy business. We spend more time before we even go to our credit committee to present the deal. Clients, most of them, they come without doing the necessary research on their part. And however, once we've met and I can see a potential, we then get to meet and I need to get to know them. What are their skills that they've got? Who's helping them? Who's their builder? Who's the architect? Who's gonna be the structural engineer? So we've got meetings and we take them through each journey, because we try that. We also share some email like information pack, but we found that it overwhelms them. And so where I will send it to them and say, go through it and then come back, let's discuss each element so that I unpack it and make it easier for you. Before we can go to credit, we would have spent about a year ensuring that we are getting ready, the product is correct, the professionals are there, who's going to manage the property. So it's not a easy business or where you can just come today and tomorrow you've got a loan. There's a lot of work that has to be done, especially by the developer. But we guide them to say, now go and find this, go and do that. So those are the things that we get involved as portfolio managers assisting the township. But at the end of the day, we're proud of ourselves that once the project is complete, it's fully led, and we realize that all that work was worth it. And Lizwi, who never thought would be an entrepreneur, his dream has been fulfilled and he's excelling. And there are so many other clients that we've got that never even thought that they will be able to run a profitable or successful business where compliance is in place, because that's also one thing that uMaStandi is bringing on board, especially in the township market, to say that compliance. You cannot build without knowing what is the zoning of the site. You cannot build without ensuring that your plans are approved. If it's a double story, let's go and get the structural engineer. And also, I always tell people that it's important that you go and study this business that you want. Not necessarily study, do research where you understand what are the challenges, and also network. Get to be in forums with people who are already in this business, learn from them and get to ask them questions, because it's a journey and any information in a journey, it's relevant and person can grow from that. And yeah, it's a journey, and at the end of the day, we get excited once the project is complete and is fully let. And also, we don't stop there. Every month, we ask our developers or clients to say, paying the city utilities is important bills. So this is part of your operational cost as you are now an entrepreneur. Send us the municipal bill and the proof that you've paid, so that we keep records of that. And also it's teaching them a skill, that a discipline, ensuring that every month they know that I've got an obligation is to pay uMaStandi bond, is to pay my utility statement from the city, and then before they can start benefiting from the profit. So we teach clients, and also every year we go and inspect the property to ensure that it's well managed, because we don't want the value of the property to depreciate. So every year we go and inspect to ensure that there is no water that is running around the street that is from the complex. There is no leaking. The painting, it's looking neat, because you want the value of your property to appreciate every year. So those are the things that we do. And we ask them to also submit their financials and ensure that SAPS recording is also kept according to the requirements of the country. So every year that they need to submit their financials to us to ensure that the property is still profitable. And then we guide those that have got challenges as to why they are not profitable. And we are there to guide them, to assist them with their journey. So we are very hands-on. We are not a funder that's operating remotely. We go to the city to say, city, help us, there's a challenge here. We proud ourselves as uMaStandi that we are there with our clients and we are with them throughout the journey, and we understand the journey. And with the experience that we are bringing from various projects, we can guide them as they navigate their businesses.
I think there's a whole other podcast on the other alternative route, which is not compliant with the regulatory environment, whether it's the municipality and the building plans, whether it's around SARS, whether it's around basics. And I mean, we've seen in the last 24, 48 hours, this administration penalty of R1 million that's been levied by the city and has been upheld at appeal in terms of rental stock in Belleville, I think, if I'm not mistaken. There are consequences that ultimately will face an aspiring developer if those, what I guess are hurdles at the beginning, but become part of a normal business routine. I'm struck, Lizwi, by this idea, you're the detective. You respond to demand, as in there's a case that's opened and your job is to investigate the case, or in this instance, respond to a demand for residential accommodation in your other life. Then it's about preparing the case in the docket based on information. It's about putting the business case to a financier. It's then about presenting those documents, and you've talked about your credit committee that ultimately Nomfundo agrees or disagrees, or in this case is the presentation to the court of law to say, here's the evidence that we're presenting, and then ultimately there's an outcome, either in favour of the work that the police have done, or in this instance, the outcome of the credit committee, which says we agree based on the evidence that's been presented, we can greenlight this project. I think it's a really interesting correlation between your dual worlds. They all work within a very particular framework. It starts with the demand, which may in your criminal case be a negative. We know that the residential market has been a constant challenge. We cannot build enough houses as the state, but the private sector is at a phenomenal rate. uMaStandi and others in this game, what is the impact that you can make to the landscape of the country and the supply of affordable accommodation to the citizens of South Africa?
From various research that we've been given by professors from various higher learning institutions, it's clear that the demand for housing is growing. And also from what Deputy Mayor indicated yesterday in the conference that we workshop that we had, that the numbers of housing demand, they cannot meet that need as the officials. However, the private sector, they've got a big role to play. And that's where uMaStandi comes there by filling the gap and saying that we are here to find those entrepreneurs in the township that are interested in building decent, affordable rental accommodation for the communities. And we measure that as uMaStandi across the country. uMaStandi is in Gauteng, Cape Town, KwaZulu-Natal, and Eastern Cape, East London, and also Gqeberha. So when we look back at the number of units that we've built and these people that wouldn't have had accommodation, now they know that we've got decent, affordable accommodation. It's something that when we look back and we realize that we are changing the life of the people. And having accommodation, a shelter, it's something that is important for every citizen of the country. And being there in that space, working with the city officials to say, how do we assist this sector to be able to provide accommodation, and what challenges that they are experiencing, and saying, how can we help them? Let's pull our heads together. Let's have a different thinking to say, how do we assist them? Being part of those discussions, and when we look back in years, we're going to realize that what we did was quite impactful and has changed people's life.
Lizwi, from your side, what's the plans? What's the thinking around the next 6, 12, 18 months in terms of your property empire? Are you expanding? Are you consolidating? What's the thinking?
The thinking will be expanding. Since I started very small. Not small, it was a huge thing for me at the same time, I won't lie. And also kicking in and knowing exactly what is happening in the property industry. That was very important. So at least I have a knowledge now there and there. I'm still learning, but expanding will be my next step now.
At the beginning of our conversation, Nomfundo talked about mentorship. And how have you started to being able to reach across to other people who may be starting out where you were in 2018? Have you started to engage with anybody else within the sector who's has lots of queries? Are you starting to help them in terms of finding their feet and building that courage that we talked about earlier?
Well, before I started as well, there was a friend of mine that was already a client of uMaStandi. The good thing when he started this project, he started from scratch, building and everything. I was present. I saw uMaStandi is doing it because I observed. He was my friend. I would visit the site and now and then. And then also at that time, since Nomfundo was not far from me and was always available when I asked certain questions for me to be able to understand certain things in the property industry. Well, now, yes, I am able to advise there and there that this is what is happening. I'm also, since I'm a product of uMaStandi and a client of uMaStandi, I also tell people about uMaStandi because I would like people also to come and taste what I'm having or what that will bring the opportunity in any way that was given to me by uMaStandi. I would like other people also to get that opportunity. So I do advise people where I know what is happening in the property industry. Yeah.
Certainly, thank you today for sharing in such detail your journey and some of the specifics, whether it was rentals, whether it was on your tenants, and your whole journey. It's been a real privilege to understand how you have got into this space, and I'm really excited to see how it goes, and more strength to you, your family on this journey. So thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to uMaStandi and Sis Nomfundo.
We're going to come to Sis Nomfundo now, which is before we sign off around what you're thinking is as uMaStandi for the future, that 6, 12, 18-month journey. I just do want to spend one moment on partners. That this is obviously a growing industry. We've seen recently the Township Developers Forum being established. There's also the likes of the Development Action Group who've been very involved in this. You mentioned UCT, Prof. Virili, and the Urban Real Estate Research Unit. How important are some of these other players in building, let's call it momentum and a critical mass behind this sector of the industry, and how engaged in that and are you, and how do you see yourself engaging in that space going forward?
Peter, I think uMaStandi has indicated that we are hands-on. We are on the ground. We understand the market better than any other financer. The discussions that we've got today of a small-scale rental unit, that program that the city is running, uMaStandi was the first person who went to knock at their doors and say, city officials, we've got a problem. People in the township are building and no complaints have been met. How do we assist? Because they are coming to us as uMaStandi to say, we want to release equity. I've built 14 units. I've got 10 units there. And because that structure is not compliance, where there are no approved plans, the plans might be there, however, they've deviated from that. And for any financer, that's a risk. So we realized that engaging various stakeholders to assist the township developers was key. And we started with the city, and then we got to involve a DEC. A Township Developers Forum was formed in my presence. And also various stakeholders that we were with in the meeting, where we started identifying the challenges. What we don't want is a situation like Danone, where the city has got no control to regulate because people mentality hasn't shifted. I mean, I looked at the project that you mentioned now in the way it was fined 1 million. Some of the comments are saying that the person has got a right to build anything, is their land. And I think also having those discussions with the city that they need to educate people. It's also part of their responsibility that education is key, and working with all the stakeholders in saying, how do we assist the developers to function in this township market where all the compliances are in place. So those discussions were key, and where we already discussed the administrative penalty, because people wanted to come forward and say, I've built, my plans are not approved, or they are not as what was approved, I've deviated, and I want to make it correct. And the first thing the city will do is to slap them with administrative penalties. And part of that, we realized as a committee that we don't need administrative penalties, because they will prohibit or prevent people from coming forward to ensure that they comply. And also these development charges, that has been an issue, and we are thankful that we've got that 20 million grant that the township developers here in the Western Cape Town can access as they regulate their developments. And also the special building rights overlaying zone, which is still going to be presented to the mayoral committee. So all those things and efforts that the city is ensuring that we get to reach that objective where people can have compliant structures. And then that is when the banks will also start now recognizing this sector. And uMaStandi is part of those discussions and championing all those discussions, ensuring that we assist the developer at the end of the day in the township.
So what's on the horizon over the next few months? What are you looking at? What's your key priorities? And where can people find out more about the work that you do, Nomfundo?
We've got a website. We're in the social media spaces. We've got Instagram page, we've got a Facebook page, and also YouTube channel, where I always tell people that go and familiarize themselves with what we offer. We offer lots of learning and advice there, and it's a nice place for anyone who's starting in the industry to go and watch old videos to understand what is required. I always tell the people that before they go and see the financer, they should be ready, have some knowledge. So the best place is our website, it's our YouTube. Listen or watch those videos. Look at what is posted in the Instagram. That's where they can find uMaStandi. And I think with the city, part of the challenge that was a main problem for Cape Town to densify their property was the town planning issues, and the cities attending to those challenges. And I mean, there's a there are various work streams and teams that are daily ensuring that by November things will be different for Cape Town. So I'm so looking forward to November. And also I think Deputy Mayor indicated, what is that process?
The municipal planning bylaw process,
yes,
that's going to be advertised around November. That was
so once that process has been approved, it will be easy for the township developers.
That was basically going to circumvent the need to rezone on many properties and shorten the process towards a building plan submission. That's quite a big step.
And cost to them. And also what is nice that they've got prototypical plans that they've developed, and it will also be easier for the developers to select one from the shelf and then adapt it to their layout and then build. So definitely there's a lot of work that has been done to assist this market. City of Cape Town is focused, and it's a matter of time things will be easier for the township developers.
I just wish you and I were together when some of these issues were being raised in both policy and regulatory spaces. But more strength to uMaStandi. And again, thank you so much for hosting us today, Nomfundo. Hopefully this can be the start of a conversation. We can come back to some of these themes, some of your clients, build a bit of a knowledge base for prospective developers, as well as those who are well down their journey. Lizwi, good luck to you and the rest of your developers. Thank you so much to both of you today for hosting me.
Thank you so much for availing yourself for this interesting discussion we just had. And thanks to you, Lizwi, for availing yourself.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Nomfundo.
We hope you enjoyed this content of the Talking Transformation podcast. Please feel free to give us feedback via our Twitter platform. That's @TalkingTransfo and the number 1. Or alternatively, via our email address, talkingtransformation101@gmail.com. Thanks and recognition also to Tribal Need for allowing us to use their track, Flags, as our introductory and closeout music on this podcast.